Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Assalamu wa barakatuh. How are you, Kyle?
Alhamdulillah, very good. How about yourself?
Alhamdulillah.
So, this is Brother Kyle Smith. Today we're here with MBMuslima magazine. And I'm interviewing Brother Moustafa Zayed. He's a well-known Imam in the area. And today we're going to be discussing the topic of his new book, The Prophecies of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So let's get right into it. Why this book? Why write a book on the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi
Wasallam? As you know, Kyle, I speak on many topics about Islam. I debate a lot of Islam haters, Islamophobes, and my previous book, actually, which is known worldwide now, The Lies About Muhammad, How We Were Deceived into Islamophobia, which focused on refuting all the allegations and fabrications against Prophet Muhammad and Islam that some people sometimes try to manufacture and take advantage of for Muslims who do not know, so we put the answers there. But it dawned on me that the bottom line of us fulfilling the cause of our creation, that is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and live the most fulfilling, satisfying, joyful life, is that if we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His messenger. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is evident by the fact that He sent to us Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us from nothing and gave us everything. I didn't pay anything for my memory or my physical ability or my ability to learn or see or hear or sense, and all that was given to me for free by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would come to all of us and say, you know what, I created you from nothing, I gave you everything, you on your own figure out what pleases me, what angers me, try to do as much of what pleases me and avoid what angers me, and if you're successful, I'll give you eternal life in a paradise where everything is there for the wishing. Could you say that's not a good deal or something? You gave nothing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave you everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was His mercy, after what He given us, our life and our ability and our informed choice, and He gave that to none other in heavens and earth, He sent us prophet after messenger after prophet with proofs and miracles to tell you, I am sent to you by your Creator. I have a miracle, I have a prophecy that suspends and cancels the laws of nature, so you know I'm sent to you by the Creator of heavens and earth. Here is what you need to do in a silver platter, and all you have to do is obey and be on your way. So if we bring the scientific, objective, logical proofs that Prophet Muhammad is the Prophet of God, and that God is the true one mighty God, Creator of heavens and earth, then if I tell you obey, halal, haram, benefit, or abstain from whatever that hurts you, it becomes so easy. So the source is, and of that blessing to us, is Prophet Muhammad himself. And that's why I had to make my next project, The Prophecies of Muhammad, His Miracles and Prophecies till the end of time.
I think it's such an important topic. I mean, just like you said, for all the reasons, all the proofs. What you'll find is that a lot of people say, I believe in God, but I'm not a religious person. And I think what it really boils down to is the fact that they haven't seen the proofs, they haven't seen the right way. They believe in God, but they don't have that correct guidance. So what other than doing it, let's show why Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a true prophet of God. And I think, the aim of your book is to do exactly that.
And I heard that so many times, by the way. People say that I'm good with God, that's enough for me. It's just like saying, you know what, I believe in the company called Apple, I believe in the products, I love Steve Jobs. When I go work for them, I'll just sit down and do nothing. And I'll do whatever that. I'll fly a kite, but I love him, I like him. Guess what? You're going to be fired. But with God, it's going to be much worse.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. I mean, give the viewers, the listeners out there, some of a taste of what's in this book. I mean, can you share a certain prophecy, that I think that a lot of people could appreciate, but maybe nobody knows about, or very few people know about? Would you be willing to share one of these?
Well, the subject of the miracles of Prophet Muhammad has been covered by many of the scholars and people who make da'wah for Prophet Muhammad. But before I even get to that, there was a certain subject that it was dear and close to my heart, and it irritated me that it's not covered as it should be covered when most of the scholars give da'wah, which is the physical miracles of Prophet Muhammad. A lot of people think that the scientific miracles in the Quran or in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad is sufficient proof, and it is sufficient proof. Yeah. But that does not negate the fact that there's not one single prophet of God that had physical miracles that Prophet Muhammad did not have, which is astonishing. On the physical miracles, for example, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ one time given the khutbah and there was a huge drought. And people stood in the middle of the khutbah and asked Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there's a drought, we're about to starve and die. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ raised his hand when he's given the khutbah of Jum'ah sermon.
I heard you say the word khutbah 3 times now. We might have some
That's the Friday sermon, the Friday prayers, which is the main prayers of the week. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ raised his hand, supplicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before the khutbah or the lecture had ended. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's beard was soaking wet of the huge amount of rain that went down. All of a sudden, an empty sky would have mountains of clouds and it started to rain hard. And in the matter of fact, to make it complete, the following week, people stood in the same khutbah and complained to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the rain is too much now. And we're afraid that it's going to affect the integrity of our houses. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made his famous supplication, Allahumma hawalayna la alayna. Oh Allah, bring it around us, but not on us, upon us. And all of a sudden, there's a circle that is empty of and void of any clouds in the sky on top of his head, and the rain had stopped. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ fed an entire army. This is an incident 1,400 people had witnessed when they were about to slaughter the last 2 camels that they have because they have no more food. He said, give me whatever leftovers that you have. And he put it in an animal hide and supplicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and people seen that hide get thicker and higher, and he fed the entire army, 1,400 people, of that. Not only that, he told them, after you eat, take whatever you want and save it for future days. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, also the people were so thirsty in the desert for water. The last amount of water was a small pot that just the size of his palm, with just maybe a quarter of an inch of water. He put his hands there, and hundreds of people seen water gushing from between his fingers. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And people drank till they had more than enough. People with broken arms, broken legs would come to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He would wipe it with his blessed hand, supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they walk out straight. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ learned.
Now he did these things. He was able to perform these miracles not because he was amazing, because God made him amazing, because Allah made him amazing. Correct?
Absolutely. Anything happens with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And actually, if you can see that common thread between the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, the example of water. Never Prophet Muhammad generated water out of thin air. There had to be water that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he would kind of bless it more and supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so he would make it much. He did not create the food that he fed a 1,400 soldier army out of thin air. With whatever leftovers, he blessed it more. That in itself is just telling you, I am just someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowers to increase what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already has created.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can create things from scratch.
And the Prophet Muhammad that is, he never attributed good to himself. He always said that, what I'm able to do is because I have the Creator.
In any hadith and everything, even in the prophecies, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling him, and it's a verse in the Quran, قُلْ لَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ. Tell people, I do not know the unknown. And if I knew the unknown, I would have brought much benefit to me, and nothing would have harmed me. But only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on certain occasions, on a need-to basis, would reveal things to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, would empower Prophet Muhammad ﷺ with things, and in themselves, they solve problems, immediate problems for people, but they are to us and to them an indication that this is Prophet, or the last Prophet of the Creator of heavens and earth. So it's a proof that we can see for ourselves. Many other physical miracles of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, actually the book is about 350 pages, and when I was compiling the material, my problem was not to find something to bring in, my problem is what to keep out.
Yeah.
It could have been a 1,000-page book.
Yeah.
Of how many of them, so I tried to make it manageable to read in maybe a few days, so you can get that jolt of evidence and proof and amazement of the amount of scientific miracles and prophecies of Prophet Muhammad.
With that being said, since there's so much, would you be interested in possibly making a second volume?
It looks like I would have to make a second volume for it, because even when we were just publishing the book, there were 2 miracles that actually, one was discovered by a Yemeni scholar, Sheikh Zindani, which was amazing, and I verified it myself, and another one that was have discovered by myself, which was amazing too, that we just discovered, and on top of the ones that already I didn't have room in the first book to do. So it looks like later, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows, we will do a second volume.
Inshallah. So these are physical miracles, stuff that, and I think that what a lot of times the other, Christians, they'll often point to, Jesus performing, and usually they'll point to physical miracles. Same thing with other religious faiths. Now, physical miracles, someone like me or you, someone who's living today, we can't necessarily see that with our own eyes. Someone would say, oh, this is something that you have to accept on faith. What is something that for our viewers, what makes it, we know that the sources that it's coming from is so accurate. How we can know that this is not fabricated, this is coming from a true source. Could you share
that is a great question. The ultimate physical miracles before Prophet Muhammad is the parting of the Red Sea. When Musa was chased by the Pharaoh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him to hit the seashore with a stick, parted into two gigantic mountains of water, saved him, and the Pharaoh was drowned and perished, him and his army. But it's the effect of that miracle is only good for the people who have witnessed it.
Yeah.
And then the second generation that did not see it, it becomes just a matter of belief in God and His prophets and the credibility of the people who were narrating the story to them. Mm-hmm. Prophet Muhammad, as I told you, had every physical miracle that a prophet of God had. So what is that gigantic miracle that Prophet Muhammad had of splitting something that gigantically that we might be able to verify today? It comes to the fact that the moon, our moon, has been split. And a lot of people say, that's superstitious, I never heard of this. It was split. And who verified that? That's NASA, not Moustafa Zayed. Yeah. What happened, Prophet Muhammad was trying to persuade people to believe in their Creator. And like it happened with Musa like it happened with Jesus, peace be upon him, people mocked him. And actually they asked for absurd things to be happening for them to believe in God. Yeah. So they asked him, well, make your God split the moon for us, and if the moon is split, we will believe. And they were just basically mocking them. Prophet Muhammad supplicated to Prophet Muhammad and asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to split the moon. Right after Asr, which is the afternoon, the entire people of the region seen the moon being split before their eyes. And it was a big split that the entire mountain of Uhud appeared there. And people seen it with their own eyes. But did they believe? No. Like the other people with Jesus, peace be upon him, and Musa alayhi salam, some of them said, oh, you put a magic spell on our eyes, the moon is impossible to be split. So one of the people, he said, you know what, if it's magic, it can only affect us, it cannot affect everybody on the face of the planet. So we'll wait for a convoy that is traveling afar, and when they come, we'll ask him, did you see the moon being split like we seen it or not? And then the next convoy came in and said, yes, exactly, at the same time the moon was split, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it back together. Now, how would we know that this happened? Number one, historically, in the Indian scriptures, there was a king that, because India shares the night with Saudi Arabia, so they see the same moon. Mm-hmm. He's seen the moon split. So he asked his shamans, what is this? They said, in our old scripture, it said that there's going to be a prophet in the Arab Peninsula, and one of the signs of his coming, that the moon is split. So he traveled and met Prophet Muhammad and accepted Islam, and actually gave a gift to Prophet Muhammad of ginger, one of the rare gifts at the time, and it's actually in Indian scriptures. But more importantly, you can see this right now, if you want. Go to NASA website, nasa.gov, and type search moon real. Real mean, the split or a schism. Yeah. And they're going to show you a picture that is taken in 1964 that shows this schism or real all around the moon, split it right in the middle. And their research shows that the kind of soil in the middle of this that they took matches the inner part of the moon. That means that the moon at one point was split and put back together. And you can see this right now. You cannot see the sea that was parted by Musa a.s., but you can see this right now. Not on Moustafa Zayed website, but you can see this on NASA.gov. NASA proved it to the 1.6 billion Muslims, that the moon was split. And it's a verse in the Quran. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر.
And what surah or chapter could we find that in if a reader wanted to read further?
And in Shiqaq.
Okay.
Inshallah.
SubhanAllah. And that's amazing because it's something that we can still appreciate today. And I don't think there's anyone who's going to really question the credibility of NASA. So why don't you? I think that's a little bit of scientific kind of miracle that we can appreciate today. You've given us some physical miracles. What about some other kind of prophecies?
There's actually categories of them. That's how many they are. But not only there are that many, but each one is more significant than the other. To me, two of these would have been enough for me to accept Islam, like that splitting of the moon. One British scholar actually seen this and accepted Islam because of the NASA statement that the moon was split before that. But actually there's categories of them. First of all, the historical prophecies. Prophet Muhammad predicted that they're going to win the Battle of Badr, the first battle, after they've been severely persecuted by the pagans of Quraysh. Not only that, the day before, he told his companions, here this leader would die, here's this leader would be killed. These are the enemies who killed and tortured Muslims. The following day, after the end of the battle, which was amazing, was a battle 3-1. The ratio was severely against Muslims in the same locations, in the same places. The Prophet Muhammad pointed the day before, exactly the same people were killed, and as Prophet Muhammad had told. And Prophet Muhammad would tell you, it's not me, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to me. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Not only that, in the midst of probably the most difficult time of the Muslims, when they're in Medina, and Quraysh had summoned the biggest army in their history, 10,000 soldiers, to go and destroy the Muslims till the annihilation of Muhammad. They had to dig a trench around the entire perimeter of Medina to save themselves from any horses, so horses could not just leap over it or come near.
It's a warfare strategy.
Exactly. And then Prophet Muhammad, while he is splitting a big rock that no one could split, predicted that Islam would prevail in the Sham area, that Islam would prevail in the Persian area, which is Iran today, and in the Yemen area. This is like a little village somewhere that might be annihilated tomorrow by a much bigger force, talking about, we're going to change totally the political and social system in England, America, and Japan.
Yeah.
And it happened exactly the same sequence. He predicted that Jerusalem would be open to Islam. He predicted that Egypt would be open to Islam. He predicted that 700 years later, Constantinople would be open to Islam. And exactly happened exactly the same way. And that's just the historical category. Look about the other prophecies, even predicting things in the future. Do you know? And these are all correct hadith. All the hadith, I made sure they're all correct hadith. The Prophet Muhammad predicted cars. He told, as if he's standing and describing cars, in the famous hadith of Kasiyatun Ariyat, the naked covered woman. And the hadith is there. Do you know that Prophet Muhammad predicted voice recognition? He said that people would be talking to sticks in their hands. Amazing, things that can never be explained unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these things to him.
Just a quick point, and I think that it's anyone who reads the book, I think it would be, quite impossible to deny these facts, these prophecies that he made. That obviously it didn't happen at the time. Islam wasn't open to Syria when he made the statement. But this is a wide, historical fact that it was. I mean, subhanAllah, that's pretty amazing.
And never that he made a prediction or told the future like that, and it did not happen. And sometimes even it's things that he is not obligated to do.
Yeah.
But he would reveal things to prove it. For example, in the verse, the Rome, which is the Romans in the Quran, the Romans to the Muslims are Christians, and Christians are people of the scriptures. They're not like pagans or anything like that. They have an elevated status in the eyes of the Muslims.
Yeah.
So the believers came to Prophet Muhammad. They were said that the Persians, who are pagans, have defeated the Romans.
Yeah.
And Prophet Muhammad told them, and it is in the Quran, that within a few years, the Romans would have a major victory over the Persians in the lowest point of earth. Within 9 years, and it happened after the passing of Prophet Muhammad, the Romans did have a major victory over the Persians, and actually continued after that. So not only that this is a miracle, that within a few years the Romans had that victory, and we thought that this is the entire miracle about Prophet Muhammad in the future, but it turned to be even a bigger miracle. After the advent of satellites, Prophet Muhammad said that this would happen at the lowest point on earth. When we have satellite and aerial imagery of the area, which is by the river Jordan, it actually happened at the lowest point on the surface of the earth, about 1,300 feet below the surface of the sea.
SubhanAllah.
How could Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the middle of 7th century have aerial view or satellite technology to tell about the topography of the planet?
Yeah.
But it is God who's revealing it to him, and he tell you that. It is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals.
I mean, it's a bold statement in and of itself to say, okay, these people are going to be defeated. But it's even a bolder statement to say it's going to happen in the lowest point of our. I mean, it's such a bold statement.
What would happen if, let's say, the Persians had another major victory over the Romans? Then people said, oh, you see, Muhammad does not know, or... But subhanAllah, nothing that he ever said in a correct hadith or in the Quran, that did not happen.
SubhanAllah.
And so many of them after that. For example, the two miracles that we discovered recently, and we added them to the book actually in the edition that's happening right now. The first one, in one of the quotations that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is describing the width of the doors of Jannah. He said the distance between the two hinges of a door of Jannah is like the distance between Mecca and Hajar, a town called Hajar and Mecca, and a town called Busra and Mecca. And one is in the far east of the Arab Peninsula and one in the far north. So the distance, when people measured it, is about 1,273 kilometers, which is a huge distance. You know, as we know, the distances in paradise is going to be way more bigger and huge than what we know here. But the real miracle is that how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ knew that the distance between Mecca and Hajar, which is in today's Bahrain, and Mecca and Busra, which is close to Syria, are exactly the same. Yeah. You had no aerial view. There were mountains, there were twisted roads, there were deserts. How could you possibly know that the distance is exactly the same? The only way you could possibly make that statement unless that you had aerial view. And the aerial view was not available till the 18th century, and actually it was difficult to do it then, but by satellites you could have possibly done it. Prophet Muhammad in the middle of the 7th century, no. How could you possibly know that?
There's no way he was getting out of it.
It's one after the other. There's no escape. He is the last prophet of the mighty one creator of heavens and earth. The second one that we discovered, which is unbelievable, it's about stem cell research and therapy. Stem cells is like the frontier of curing, multitude of diseases, because they are the cells that our body is formed from. When an egg of a woman is inseminated by the sperm, it turns into cells and they keep splitting, but they all look the same. Till at a later stage, they start to, create the liver, and cells become the heart and the bones and so on and so forth.
Even athletes are using these nowadays.
Absolutely, to speed up the repair of their body. It's an amazing technology. But the problem is, when they first discovered it to do research and advance it, the only source that you can get stem cells are from embryos. And people start to say, these are human beings, when an embryo is a human being, and when he's not, and so on and so forth, till a Japanese team made a breakthrough. They said, out of your own skin, we can find stem cells and grow them in the lab, and then use them to repair parts of your body, and they're going to have the same genetic code as yourself, because they are from your own skin, so that would, save you. Till 2008, 2009, a major Australian university discovered a source of stem cells that is laden with stem cells, and a lot of people did not even know that it had it. What was it? A mother's nursing milk, breast milk. And it's the best kind of stem cells that has the 3 layers of the stem cells, and actually it repairs the body it gets into. And then you remember the great quotation of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he seen a mother breastfeeding a son that belongs to another parent, just breastfeeding him. He said, give him 5 nursings and you would be forbidden for him, meaning that you would be his own mother, like his own mother. So what the Prophet is saying is that breastfeeding would genetically change that boy into a biological boy for that woman. So there's something in that breast milk that would make a genetic change in that boy and would make him a biological copy of her. And from that, it's the only thing known in the world, in Islamic law, that there's a sister or a brother in nurse feeding. Wow. So if we belong to different parents, but we both nursed by the same mother, then we become biological brother and sister, as like half a brother, half a sister, so we cannot get married. So not only Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us about stem cell research, but saved the Muslims from the myriad of problems when a half brother, half sister get married, and the mental retardation and the myriad of problem and all that. How could he? In the middle of 7th century, I might add, this might be a little bit odd, but you think of it, common sense. The most knowledgeable scholar on the face of the planet in the middle of 7th century has less knowledge than an American third grader. What an American third grader knows about science and math and, subhanAllah, it's and the world and the planets and all that, no one knew that. How could a man in the middle of 7th century knows that? It's impossible.
And keep in mind, it's not like he was delving into science books or something like this. I mean, he was unlettered. He wasn't reading, correct?
No, he was just trying. It's a benefit. Sharia law is to benefit and protect. And this is a part of the benefit. Another thing which, I did not even put in the book, but this is going to be inshallah, in the second volume of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows, is when the American Health Secretary was so proud in 1997 that we're the first developed country that banned feeding dead animal parts to live animals, because they discovered that causes a myriad of cow diseases, and actually mad cow disease is one of them.
This is during Bill Clinton's administration.
Exactly. And he said we did it before Japan, we did it before Europe, and he was happy that their research led him to that advancement and hence protect the American people from these kind of diseases. And subhanAllah, the hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ there, do not feed dead animal parts to live animals. All you have to do, know that he is the Prophet of God and obey. And you do nothing but benefiting yourself and protecting yourself.
And this is Bill Clinton's administration being, kind of groundbreaking as, the modern world.
Yes, ahead of the curve,
Yeah,
subhanAllah. And it's right there in Islam.
Right about to be the 21st century, but, this was stated back in the 7th century. SubhanAllah. Any more amazing prophecies that you would like to share before we, kind of move on?
There's so many.
I know there's so many, and that's why people, that's why people out there, they need to get the book. And when you get the book, read it, and please, write a review on Amazon so we can keep spreading the word.
I made the latter part of the book about how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told of how the world would end, what would be the phases and the sequences of events, and subhanAllah, it is amazing. It is amazing. But in it, predicting what would happen, how the world would end, became some scientific miracles that it's impossible. That Prophet Muhammad is not the prophet of the Almighty God who revealed these things to him. For example, Prophet Muhammad said that when the hour nears, and by the hour is that the earth would shift on its axis, so instead of spinning in the direction it is right now, it would reverse its direction, and from that the hour would actually happen when the sun would rise from the west, not the east, because now the earth is rotating the other way around.
Yeah.
And he said that the precursor for that the times would be different. That the day would be like an hour, and a week would be like a day, and a month would be like a week, and the times would not be constant. Like today's day is 24 hours. Yeah. Tomorrow's time is going to have 24 hours. This constancy in the time periods, that is going to be totally put out of balance. Geologists would tell you that actually when there are going to be major earthquakes and volcanoes and the earth would shift around its axis, that's exactly what's going to happen. Prophet Muhammad made that prediction 500 years before the invention of the first clock. When he said that before the hour comes in, one of these major volcanoes and earthquakes, there's going to be a major volcano that would erupt in the Hijaz area in Saudi Arabia that would shed light on the necks of camels in Busra all the way to the north. That means there's going to be a gigantic volcano. Yeah. Not only that, Prophet Muhammad said that volcano would start erupting from the bottom of Aden, which is a major city in Yemen, south of Saudi Arabia. In the end of 18th century, scientists, when they started to draw maps of volcanic activities, they discovered there's a 90,000 kilometers area of active volcanic regions underneath that specific area. And actually, if there's a likelihood of a volcano, it would happen in that Hijaz, and the depth of it would come, like the most active part of it that would start it, is actually right beneath the city of Aden. and on and on and on. Plus the miracles of the Quran. It's amazing, amazing, amazing prophecy. These are not maybe 10% or 15% of the miracles in the book and the Prophet's prophecies.
To the layman reading some of the quotations of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you might think, this might be kind of odd because, that he would make such an accurate, prediction, but, when you actually look at the scientific research and stuff behind it, you see, wow, that actually makes sense.
And what I made sure to do in the book, because I'm appealing to my brothers and sisters in humanity. I was blessed by the fact that I was born a Muslim.
Yeah.
So for me to tap into that wealth of wisdom, it was easy for me because my parents and everyone around me.
Yeah.
But some people are born not to Muslim parents and they don't have access to that. And as a matter of fact, they're fed totally the opposite of that Islam is this, this and that. So I'm appealing to their sense of humanity, their sense of worship in their Creator. I'm appealing to that through logic and science and objectivity.
Yeah.
And that's why even in the introduction of the book, I brought an introduction about the science of hadith, the science of authenticating the quotations of the Prophet. So when we tell you that this is a correct hadith, you know for sure that Prophet Muhammad had said this to the letter, and how it was done and how it was authenticating. So not only we brought the hadith in Arabic and in English, we brought the source, we brought the narrator, we brought the book, the reference by the page.
Yeah.
So it's documented as can be, and it's verified as can be. That is one thing. The second thing is, and this is something I want people to think about. People in Asia worship, gods, elephants, and with monkey heads. People in Africa worship trees and statues, and in Latin America they worship the wind and all that kind of things. There's only one creator of heavens and earth. And be sure he's not going to shape-shift himself to appeal to you by looking like whichever God is being worshipped in your own specific zip code. You need to seek him. He does not need to seek you. He does not need anything to begin with. Yeah. So aside from my parents, my town, where I was born, that is totally irrelevant, especially in this time where with just a click on a mouse, I can tap into any kind of information in the world, which was not available ever. It's my duty to seek God. Yeah. And I have to seek God with my heart, with my mind, with my logic. And when I find him, I worship him. I don't worship my town, I don't worship my football team, I don't worship my parents, because they have their own duty to worship who created them exactly like you. Most importantly, we all will stand before our Creator individually. And we're going to have to answer individually for all the blessings that we got. Were we grateful to them or not? And most importantly, were we grateful to the one who gave them to us or not? That is our Creator. That's the most important thing.
And speaking in light of the Creator, I think that the major message that we can take away from what you just said is worship the Creator, not the creation. The one who created the wind, the one who created the elephant, the one who created the rock that people use to form statues. That's the one that we
Not a man, not a woman, not anything, just worship the Almighty God. That's all.
Yeah.
And he sent you a one with a proof that is undeniable. Not one time, 100 times.
Yeah. And that's our duty to seek that Creator.
Absolutely.
So why don't you take us a little bit through the process of how you did your research for this book? Obviously, it's an exhaustive amount of research that you did. I'm sure it took you, quite some time. Why don't you take us through that process?
Oh, no, actually, I brought every credible reference, book or study, research that spoke about the subject. Physical miracles of Prophet Muhammad, his features, the scientific miracles of Prophet Muhammad, and then I did the verification of the sources. And if there was a source that was not reliable, then I would abandon that. Or if somebody made a mistake bringing a quotation that is not that correct, but actually the event itself is correct, then I research what is the correct quotation, that I actually verify that story, and then I rectified the research. And then on top of that, then I went to the scientific side and then verified everything scientifically.
Yeah. And
actually we had pictures in the book, from Google Earth, from geographical maps of aquifers, underground rivers, and so on and so forth, to prove many times the predictions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So the scientific verification, the authentication of the hadiths, to make sure that everything that you read in there is authentic and exactly was said or done by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that was the major part of the work. And then after I compiled all the correct material, I needed to choose what would I keep in the book, because it was a huge amount of prophecies and miracles, and I made it into 350 pages to make it easy for the reader. And then the latter part was the introduction of the book. I didn't want to get into the prophecies and the miracles, but we just, why there's a God, why do we have to worship, why there had to be a prophet, what is the story of prophets that came before Prophet Muhammad Zayed, what was the world like when he came in, what are the prophecies of his coming, what are the prophecies that happened when he was alive, that happened after his passing, that are happening now, and then how the world would end. Even description of what paradise is like. The only human being that went to paradise and came back to earth to describe it to us is Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Through another miracle of his journey, the most miraculous journey in the history of mankind, Isra and Mi'raj, and also description of hellfire. Hellfire is there, as one of the Muslim scholars said, as a gift from God to have mercy upon us. And then one of his students told him, how could hellfire be mercy upon us? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would motivate you with its severe punishment to go into his paradise. That's how it is merciful.
And I can attest that is something that, motivates me. I mean, it's one thing to, want to achieve something so great as Jannah, paradise. It's another thing, when you have that and you also have wanting to avoid something so bad.
That's double the motivation.
Double the motivation.
So that was the lengthy process, but alhamdulillah I put it out there. And the most important thing, especially for Muslims who live in non-Muslim countries, where by default their children go to the average public schools there and get exposed to the secular materialistic life and curriculums out there, and then we are doing injustice to our children, that we expose them to all that kind of confusion and chaos that produces problems, major problems for anyone, any human being that goes through these schools, that we don't give him some ammunition, we'll give him some hope, we'll give him some proof that not because I'm a Muslim, hey, you have to be a Muslim because I'm your dad. No, you need to be a Muslim because Islam is the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to be a Muslim because that is the way to live the best life possible, and that's how you were created, and that's why you were created. And then you bring an undeniable, objective, logical proof that anyone with a brain would see. So at least to give him a chance to make the right choice.
And I think that's, what you'll notice is people who go to, public schools and, outside, they get influenced by the secular world, and they just take this life of just trying to constantly, please their desires and, not worship their creator, and it ends up always leading to depression and empty lives. And then they try to go back and try to find their creator. And when they realize something so powerful such as Islam, and they realize the miracles and the prophecies in a work such as yours, that's what makes them have their conviction in God. So,
There's one analogy that I truly believe in when it comes to that, and you eloquently put it, is that you are a key, and your life is a lock. Now, we use keys so many times. If you get the right key for the right lock, insert it one move, turn it one move, door is open, you have access. But when you get the wrong key for that lock, when you become the wrong you, disobeying your creator, disobeying how you should live your life, you bring the wrong key, it's not going to be inserted, and if it's inserted, it's not going to turn, and the more you fight it, the more you damage the key, the more you damage the lock, and you'll have no access, and it's a miserable process. Obeying God is only for your protection and only for your benefit, and it brings you into the natural, perfect balance, spiritually and materialistically, to live through your life with ultimate ease. And as I always say, there's no comfort except in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you do that, you'd be the key that fits in the lock, that you live the most fulfilling, satisfying life possible. The more you fight it, the more you say, I have a better one. Why will we try liquor? Why do we try hurting people? Why do we try lying, cheating, and doing all these damages? Because, everybody's doing it, or whatever excuse that shaitan or the devil shows you, you're just damaging yourself as the key and damaging the lock, and you go nowhere. And the importance of that book is that this shows you where that natural life comes from. This is the source. Ask the source. Now, after you look at the miracles and you believe in Prophet Muhammad without doubt, now learn your life, how you process your life from his hadith and the wisdom and the Quran, and your life will be simpler, easier, and you'll see tranquility that you've never seen before in your life. You owe it to yourself to try it.
Tranquility, which is, Which is peace, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but Islam comes from one of the Arabic words, which is silm, correct?
The root word is salama, which is
Salama.
peace and safety.
Yeah.
Peace and security, which is the same thing.
Peace, security through submitting to God.
And a lot of people would say, you know what, if you watch my episodes or you watch me online, I always tell people the truth. The truth is, from Adam, peace be upon him, through all the prophets of God, Abraham, Moses, David, Jesus, and Muhammad, the last prophet of God, peace be upon all of them, this all is one body, one religion called Islam.
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet of Islam who made the religion complete and perfect. That's why you go before even Musa before even there was Judaism. If you ask people who are the followers of the prophets, what are they called? In the Hebrew dialect, they would be called one of two names, either Muslimai or Salamai. Islam is the religion of God. But people made it into, we're the followers of Jesus, Christ, so we're Christians, and so on. But it's all phases into the same one religion that was completed and perfected once for all by the last prophet of God, that is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
So Islam doesn't denounce any of those other prophets. It's, it acknowledges them, and it says that they all preach that same message. And that message wasn't that, the Creator was 3 in 1 or 1 in 3. It was the Creator was one.
It was always one. Even Jesus, peace be upon him, when they asked him, what is the greatest command of the 10 commandments of Musa alayhi salam? He said, O sons of Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is what makes us Muslim. We get into Islam by saying there's no God but God.
Yeah.
And the Prophet Muhammad is his messenger. And no one verified the stories of the prophets, rectified the accounts that people mutilated of all prophets of God like the Muslims. The only non-Christian faith that believes in Jesus, peace be upon him, his miraculous birth, immaculate birth, his miracles, the greatness of Virgin Mary, the only religion is Islam. No other religion does that.
Yeah. If someone is really interested in your work and, possibly they would want to read further about, your other works, or, possibly get in contact with you, book you for an event, or whatever the case may be, how would someone be able to get in touch with you or get in touch with, your other resources?
Actually, at the back of my book, The Prophecies of Muhammad, is the list of my contact email and so on and so forth. It's Zayed, my last name, .Mustafa@gmail. That's my email. And there's also a YouTube channel, Imam Moustafa Zayed. And actually, if you put Mustafa Zayed, you see a lot of my debates and a lot of my video interviews like this with other gentlemen. And contact me anytime if there's any need, if I can do it, if I can help. You be doing me a favor. All I want is the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
Inshallah. Any future works that you have in the plan? I mean, obviously we spoke, possibly you might have a second
part 2, I know that's definitely something, inshallah, is going to happen. But right now, I'm trying to finish my translation for the Quran, inshallah. It's a contemporary English, true to the true meaning of the Arabic words. Alhamdulillah, I finished major parts of it. It's going to take some time and then review, but inshallah, I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless me to be there when a very good, efficient translation of the Quran in English would be available, and I would be the one who worked on it, inshallah.
Yeah, it's an important,
definitely.
obviously very important, especially like you said, to keep it contemporary, because sometimes someone can read something in Old English and wouldn't make much sense to them.
And some of the current translations, the translators, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, did a wonderful job. Especially they wrote it at times when we don't have that access to all the knowledge. But sometimes there are mistakes.
Yeah.
One famous translator, I'm not going to mention the name, one of the miracles, for example, scientific miracles in the Quran, that scientists discovered that the Big Bang Theory is still happening.
Yeah.
That the universe is expanding at the edges. That explosion, huge explosion, is still happening. And in Surah Al-Dhariyat, chapter 53, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and the skies we have created with our power, and we are expanding it.
Yeah.
So in the Quran, it tells you the condition of the edges of the universe 1400 years ago. The brother who was making the translation did not comprehend that, could not process in his mind. What do you mean the skies are expanding? As a matter of fact, thought that that's an embarrassment in the Quran. So he covered it in the translation, translated it into something different. So things like that, and also things that, Arabic is a very powerful and dense language. And words have multiple meanings depending on the time and the context. So to find exactly the accurate meaning of the Quranic Arabic words and bring a correct English translation to them is not an easy task.
No. I remember the famous professor and Arabist out of Cairo University, A.J. Arbery, not a Muslim, said that he wrote a work called the Quran Interpreted because he said that this is an amazing book, unlike no other, and I cannot translate it. I simply think that it can only be interpreted. Obviously, we think that it can be translated, but only to a certain degree. It is quite.
And actually, if you try to translate the Quran immediately, right, from the get-go, the verse that has 5 words, to try to even come close to bringing the meaning, you need at least 10 English words, no matter what you try. That's how powerful the language is. But inshallah, I want to try to get a copy as close, as perfect, as easy to understand to the average reader as possible. And believe it or not, some of the Islamophobes use these discrepancies in the wrong translations. But actually, they spend a lot of money researching, finding one of these erroneous verses, and try to use it against Islam as if something wrong in Islam. And so, inshallah, we want to put the truth out. That's what we want, inshallah.
Inshallah, if Allah wills with it, it'll happen. So the viewers heard it yourself. This is what the prophecies. You believe in God, you believe in the Creator. You say you believe in God, but you're not a religious person. Well, what is finding a religion? You need that guidance. You need that person to guide you. And what this work is showing, what this book is showing, the Prophecies of Muhammad, is that there's no other way that a man in the 7th century could have known about these things. You follow him, and you will receive ultimate happiness and ultimate peace in this life, and you'll be on, inshallah, towards the straight path in the hereafter. And you will attain Jannah, also known as paradise. So again, this is Brother Kyle Smith on behalf of Modest Beautiful Muslima magazine, along with Moustafa Zayed.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. We appreciate it.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.